Then Miguel, from Accenture. We're going to hear also about a variety of issues associated with some of the carrier trends and carrier perceptions and the demographics of the marketplace.
Hello. Thank you very much for the invitation to come here. Looking forward to that. My name is Miguel Myhrer. I am a managing director for Accenture in our communications, media, and technology group. And so we're about to talk about a little bit about Accenture and how that shapes our perspectives. And then I'm going to go into our perspectives that we have. And at the end of that, I'm going to plan to go through 3 or 4 topics that I'm hoping we'll discuss in a Q&A session later today. It's about Accenture. We're about a 385,000 people company. We're focused in 5 different major industries around the world: communications, media, and technology, and the rest you see here on the right. I'm part of the communications, media, and technology group. We also developed very specific horizontal groups. So we created a digital practice focused on data scientists. So we've been hiring a lot of PhDs around data scientists to do analytics. That topic we'll come back to. Technology operations. How do you take over a function and automate it? And I'll talk about that in a second. And our strategy practice, which is a lot about M&A. And you've heard a lot about M&A these days. So we're definitely involved in some of them. But we also created a group called Product Development, Network, and Video, focused just on a communications, media, and technology practice. Because there's a lot of nuances about our field, the field that we all work in, both in the technology space, the network space, but also the product space. So we created a group many years ago. I lead that here in North America. And so what do we do? We do product development from a strategy perspective and help deploy it. For instance, right now we're deploying a video solution for one of the operators here in North America from scratch. So that's a view. Second, we did cost reduction. A lot of cost reductions. The telco industry as well is growing, for sure, as Carlos mentioned, but there's a lot of cost reductions happening as well. But you need cost reductions, you need specific analytics to find cost reductions. The third one is operations and automation. How to use automation and robotics and robots to help automate tasks that could be automated. An example, part of Facebook is the NOC and some of the network operations is managed by 2 people. 2 people for almost entire Facebook is managed by 2 people. So that is automation. 99.9% of stuff is automated, and they're sharing that IP. So my next perspective is a little bit about how we combine the internet companies and how we deal with that from a telco perspective as well. My background, I just recently came back from working in Brazil and Asia, as well as Europe. So I worked quite a bit in France and Belgium. I came back about 3 years ago. And so excited to come back. I went to Georgia Tech, so I'm not too far away from home in a sense. Yeah, it's good jackets. And so, my perspective is I love to work here. I'm glad I'm here as well. But this is the projects I'm leading today, or my team's leading. It's some of these perspectives. So hopefully it gives you a sense. Okay. So the network and the platform. So what you see here behind me is a slide that shows the internet companies on the left, on the top, and on the bottom are the telco companies. Both of them were solving different business problems. And for many years, we're solving different business problems. And the business problems by the internet companies enabled them to have a lot of users, a lot more users, in billions size of users. But what happened there is the ARPU is quite small. The average revenue per user for the internet companies is actually quite small, except Apple. If you take and double that magnitude, the telcos are actually much, much higher. So you see the average revenue per user for most of the telcos, and this is a 2015 slide, so some of the numbers have changed. What it says to us is, how do you defend that average revenue per user? How do you defend that? You need to continue to invest in the network, because that's your core crown jewels. But it also, you need to go on offense. And how do you go on offense? Leveraging the same technologies that the internet companies are doing. Because now, many years ago, the business models that each of us were doing were different. But now the business models are actually converging. And converging for a major reason around technology. Technology is converging the business models. So the Googles, the Facebooks are starting to maybe compete in some areas. Facebook is the biggest messaging company in the world. And so they're starting to compete because of technology. And so what are the technology trends that we need to be aware of? If you're a marketing person, if you're a product marketing person, if you're in sales, or you're in finance, and also, of course, engineering and IT. And then leverage that. So that's a perspective we wanted to show what are the challenges we have in an industry, but also what are the opportunities, and how we take the threats coming from internet companies and go back using the same technologies, surgically tackle specific areas. And it's slowly happening, right? The ad buys that Verizon is doing, the acquisitions, the potential acquisition that AT&T has as well, some of the partnerships that T-Mobile are doing are actually quite interesting. So we'd love to have more discussions on that. So the next one is double-clicking on the technology piece. So for many years, when I started working back in the 90s, designing satellites, there was an engineering group, there was an IT group doing some email servers, and there was then the web scale stuff was just starting. But now that's converging. And so what I have here is a small little bullet points on the far right. Everybody in this room should probably already know these bullet points, but I'm not sure a lot of your peers do. Your product marketing people should know. Your sales people should know. Your finance people should know about these different tools. Node.js, Angular. I'm sure John knows about that. Well, how about DevOps? Stream processing, containers, Docker. Docker is an area what a lot of our people in our company didn't know about it. But there's a New York Times article about it. So we should all know about what Docker means. And then if you look at what does service chaining means, if we know that is the convergence of network, IT, and the web scale technologies. If we know these is just some sample of technologies out there, but combining all that, you can create new businesses. What are our business models? That's not the question. The question is what are technologies you need to know now to create these new business models. So this is a perspective around leveraging all these capabilities that people have and taking advantage of what the internet companies did. Using technologies and start doing something with it. And then you make it a business out of it. You may not. That's why you need to test it out, the whole beta culture. So that's it for me, but I wanted to stop here and then add 3 more topics. One, I think Ben mentioned public policy. Public policy is a huge space and always a debate, especially with FCC and Tom Wheeler. But public policy around the spectrum area is something that we should have a discussion about. I'm not sure if you guys know what's happening in Mexico. Not what the presidential candidate is saying about Mexico, but what is happening in Mexico from a telco industry perspective. They're about to do spectrum strategy using an auction system, a forward auction system like the utilities are doing today. So you pay very little if you use electricity at 2 o'clock in the morning, but in the congestion, you pay a lot more during the day. How do you leverage spectrum without having an independent body deal with that? That's a public policy topic that will create innovations. It may create new competitors, but it may create innovation as well. That's a space, and I'm sure people from AT&T would love to probably have some questions around that. The other one is virtual reality and augmented reality and mixed reality. That's another topic. Where does the wireless industry fit in that space? And what are the nuances behind it that we should know about? Because there are some nuances. There's a ton of companies dealing with that space. And I believe there is a market done in the right way. And then, frankly, the other ones we can discuss, there's 3 or 4 more topics. MVNOs. There's a lot of buzz around MVNOs. Would the same thing happen with the current MVNOs that happened in the previous MVNOs? Maybe we not. Let's have a discussion about that. But here's some discussion points, but all relate back to technology. The technology is a core to how we should look at predicting the future. Because you look at the business models, that was the way you did if you took an MBA class 20 years ago. Today, you take a technology class, and then you have a better MBA than did 20 years ago. That's a perspective. Look forward to the Q&A that Ben is going to be having. Okay, thanks.